Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. The grievance industry goes off the rails. That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. Under heavy pressure to stop demonizing America by calling it a racist society and start trying to solve some of the severe problems in poor African-American precincts, the far-left grievance industry is getting more desperate every day. Instead of trying to come up with solutions to the disproportionate amount of violent crime caused by young African-American men, the catastrophic high school dropout rate in the inner city, and the destruction of the traditional black family, the race hustlers and their sympathizers have descended into the gutter. Top gun in this tawdry display, Georgetown University professor Michael Eric Dyson.
We can indict the white family. There's a lot of negativity, there's a lot of dismissiveness, there's a lot of crass materialism that refuses to care for the other. We can talk about the pathology at the heart of the white family.
Georgetown must be very proud. It gets worse. Speaking about the epidemic of murder committed by black killers in Chicago, Illinois State Representative Monique Davis said this.
I'm going to tell you what some suspicions have been, and people have whispered to me. They're not sure that black people are shooting all of these children. There's some suspicion, and I don't want to spread this, but I'm just going to tell you what I've been hearing. They suspect maybe the police are killing some of these kids.
Memo to the Chicago Police Department, don't worry about it. We know you are risking your lives to protect the most vulnerable every day. The only people who take that woman seriously are to be pitied. And then there's the New Haven Register newspaper, which editorialized on Monday about a new Ku Klux Klan intrusion in the state of Connecticut. Quote, the same basic message that the KKK has promoted for 148 years is embraced by the likes of Ted Nugent, Fox News, and Coulter, a burgeoning array of fringe conservative media and members of our own community. We shouldn't need a label as obvious as KKK to call out and condemn hatred and racism. Institutions who are helping mainstream this message, even if that's Fox News, deserve to be called out and, if ultimately necessary, marginalized and ostracized for enabling it, unquote. The editor of the New Haven Register is Matt Durenzio, the publisher Tom Wiley. The paper is owned by a hedge fund, if you can believe it. The boss is Randall Smith. Now, we asked those men to discuss that irresponsible editorial. They all declined because they are cowards, and they know they cannot defend that vile, libelous piece of garbage. The New Haven Register should be ashamed. The paper has lost all credibility, and it had better apologize in writing by the end of the week. I'm not going to let this go. The anger generated by a simple call for problem solving in troubled American communities clearly demonstrates that the grievance industry has no interest in actually improving conditions for mostly poor black Americans. What they want to do is one simple thing: condemn America, while the communities they claim to care for self-destruct. And that's the memo. Now for the top story tonight, reaction. Joining us from Washington, Hilary Shelton, the Senior Vice President for Advocacy for the NAACP. So where am I going wrong here, Mr. Shelton?
Well, first, Bill, I want to thank you for taking on such a challenging issue. The issue of race is one that gets too often dismissed in our society. We need to have a good, comprehensive, insightful, and informed conversation about issues of race as well. It's been a problem in our country from its very beginning, and it's a problem now. So it's good to have these kind of conversations and not dismiss those perspectives that may be just a little bit different than our own.
All right, but surely you know the core of this isn't Americans. It's an industry, all right, of race hustlers, my description, who I don't believe want to solve the problem. And I always go back to the fundamental core reason why there is violence among African-American young men, why there is a high dropout rate, why there is a myriad of social problems in the most devastated American communities. And that is, Mr. Shelton, the destruction of the family. Now, do you agree with me on that? Do you agree with me on that?
I agree with you that we have an issue here, a concern here, that has to be discussed not just in concerns of the violence itself, but what perpetuates the violence.
But that's the
conditions in our
core
communities.
reason. The core reason is that the traditional family, mostly among blacks, 73%, I think it's 52% for Hispanics, 29% for whites, has fallen apart. That drives poverty. Young men are unsupervised. Single moms are struggling. It all comes back to the family unit, I believe. Do you agree with me there?
Well, I believe that the conditions that create the real circumstances for families throughout the country really are the core of the problem. You can't start midways to the problem. One of the issues, as you talked about those speakers earlier, whether it's Michael Eric Dyson or whether it's the registered newspaper or others, is that those issues being discussed are a very helpful perspective if we're going to have a very universal assessment of the problem.
I disagree with you. I think those people that you just mentioned. All right, wait. But let me just get this in. I disagree because those people are haters. They hate us. They hate me for even bringing it up. You're a gentleman, and you're someone who I believe sincerely wants to help poor people, not just poor black people, but poor people in general. And
Absolutely.
I respect that. You're not hating. You're not throwing stuff out. They're hating, and I'm not going to stand for it anymore.
Well, let's have an agreement to disagree on the assessment of what these people are, and just say that this is a big issue, a huge problem. We need a comprehensive response to it, which means that we need to listen to very different perspectives, sometimes painfully different perspectives. But nonetheless, we want to have more opportunities like this one with you, in which we can look at these issues, not dismiss those that may have an opinion that seems a little hurtful, but let's dig a little deeper. Let's find out exactly what's going on. Let's not have small portions of the problem. Let's talk about the entire problem.
I have studied this issue for 30 years, and my sincere belief is that the African American community is being devastated by the collapse of the family. That's your root. That's your core. That drives poverty, it drives violence, it drives resentment, it drives everything. And
Bill,
you guys just not acknowledging it. You're not acknowledging it.
We're not stopping there. In order to solve the problem, you have to embrace exactly, and the core is not the family. What conditions created these circumstances? Do you believe that African American families would like to be unemployed? Do you believe that every African American family would not like to make a good living? Do you believe that African American families would like to live in good, safe communities? They're not creating the circumstances in which they're living in. They're trying to survive under those circumstances.
Mr. Shelton,
if we want to solve the problem, Bill,
50 years ago,
we've got to dig deeper into the problem itself to craft some solutions.
You're wrong, and I hope you're hearing me on this.
If you segment portions of it, you won't get the whole problem. If you don't understand the whole problem, you can't have a universal and comprehensive solution.
And President Obama is never going to improve this situation until you acknowledge that 50 years ago, when African Americans were in a far more dire circumstance in this country than they are now, the out-of-wedlock birth rate was 25%. In the 1930s, it was 13%. Okay? Now it's approaching 75%. That is a catastrophe. And income inequality, violence, it all stems from that. And you've got to start there.
I would have to disagree. We've had many single-family headed households. The issue is the condition in which they're having to raise their children. They can be successful if indeed the society decides we want to solve the problem. It's not cookie cutter. It's not a one-size-fits-all. We have to continue having these kind of conversations and really work towards some real solutions that will be long-lasting.
All right, Mr. Shelton, thank you very much for appearing. We really appreciate it.